Crystal, Natasha, hi, how's it going?
Good.
Wonderful.
Good. Crystal, I feel like you're almost living your best life right now when I'm watching your YouTube page, and you've got, music videos and cooking and baking and workouts and all kinds of things. How does that work kind of affect your work on screen and in the show?
Well, that work I actually do when I'm not filming because I need to keep myself busy. I need some creative outlets. So, I try to keep myself busy with the other things that I enjoy, which is music. And, I do love cooking and those YouTube videos with working out was when my baby was really small. So I was actually using him as a weight and it was a lot of fun. So I want to inspire. Oh yeah. I want to inspire other new moms to that they need to take care of themselves as well and not to get just enmeshed into self-care is very important. So yeah.
Natasha, I had a chance to talk with you actually before the show had even aired. It was really interesting to get to hear about it and then to see it. And I've read actually from that same day, you talked about how they actually had you in mind for this role, for Colleen, that you still went through the audition process, but that there was sort of the idea that you would play this character. I don't know if I've seen you play a character like this before, but you do it so effortlessly, so well. What do you think it was sort of about you that they felt like you were perfect for it?
Well, I've not played this particular character before. Yeah, I was very flattered to hear this, and I actually need to confirm that with Floyd at some point. I think I did. I think I've talked to him about it, but I was told by other people, oh yeah, Floyd wanted you all along for this. And I'm like, why did he make me audition then? Damn it. But so I'm not sure how accurate that is exactly, but that's the rumor. Rumor has it anyway. I have played a lot of strong female characters. I played lawyers, I played those sort of things. And I've been fortunate enough to play characters in the past that are bossing a lot of people around, and Colleen is certainly no different from that. She does her share of, and I say bossing around, in a joking manner, but she's got a lot, she's got a lot of people to sort of put in a lot of place. She's kind of masterminding and puppet mastering all the time, trying to make sure that people are getting what they need while taking care of her lawyers, while running, the whole legal aid. So there are so many women that can do that well. I guess, on some level, they just saw something in me, and I was lucky enough to be a part of this cast. But I have played roles similar in some ways, I guess. You just haven't seen them. You said you haven't seen them, but that's,
I'll take a look again. Yeah. For both of you, the setting of the show, I mean, of filming unabashedly in Nova Scotia, I mean, it affects sort of every aspect of the show. And that both of you have, from Canada, but, worked a lot in the States, and, feels like kind of a bit of a return in a way to come back to film in Canada, to film in a setting like this, so how does that affect you?
Well, for me, you're right. This was only my third production in Canada. I grew up in the States, born in Edmonton, 8 years old, moved to the States, and just came back a year and a half ago. So it's exciting because I've never really seen the country before, and especially on the East Coast. That was my first time in Nova Scotia. Unfortunately, I was quarantining most of the time. So I was in my hotel room for 17 days and then just on set for 6. And then I had a few off days in between there. So it was nice to actually get out. And I literally was a tourist. Like I went to Capitol Hill and I went to, the Cove and I really took advantage of the nature around me. I went on hikes every day, and, I fed a baby squirrel a couple times out of my hand, which was really nice. It was really nice to get out of that place that I was in from quarantining so much in one spot. And then also just, I love that Nova Scotia, like Natasha mentioned earlier so beautifully, that Nova Scotia is like a character in the show, because it's not like they're filming in Nova Scotia pretending to be somewhere else. There's a lot of pride. Floyd has a lot of pride in his city, and he made it a part of the show, which I thought was really beautiful. And I got to see, Nova Scotia for the first time. So it was really nice.
Yeah.
Natasha, how does it feel that, you're from Newfoundland, not from Nova Scotia, but do you carry that sort of mentality with you?
I feel so at peace when I'm near the ocean. So that is in me, being born on an island. It's obviously a part of my DNA. And going back to Nova Scotia, I'd been in Nova Scotia before, but it was frozen over. It was like one of those crazy storms that they had, like the worst storm in 20 years, and couldn't leave my hotel, couldn't fly, so I didn't see anything. So when I went back to shoot the first season of Diggstown, I was so pleasantly surprised that it had the elements of Newfoundland that I love. So the oceans nearby and boating and fishing and, good seafood. And, it had those things, but it had this added element that for me is a major plus. I've traveled since I was 14 years old. I've been traveling around the world. And so for me to have that melting pot of people and cultures and diversity and ideas and opinions and all of that stuff for me is so huge. That less homogenized sort of when you have smaller places, smaller towns, they can be very homogenized. And so I really, really appreciate that about Halifax in particular. I love it. And you're right, Crystal, the nature and the beauty that abounds everywhere. So when you're not stuck in your room quarantining, it's just such a great place to be. And the food and the restaurants are fantastic. I've been always really surprised by the amazing food that I've had in Halifax. Like I get excited to go there. This year was tough because I got there and then it shut down again. But I've really enjoyed so many incredible restaurants there as well. I love going there. I love doing the show. I don't do the show to get rich. It's CBC. Sorry, CBC, but true story. I do it because I love the character. I love the cast and I love the stories.
Mm-hmm. Now, this season in particular, from the episode that I've seen, you really build on what the show was all about before. And now, that you don't ignore the pandemic, that it's very much within that episode. In particular, Natasha, you have an exchange at the end in which you're talking about, changing the system or destroying the system. And the line that's given to you is that, instead of sort of destroying the system, we have to rebuild it, change it from within, rather than to just completely annihilate it. What do you think about that idea? What do you for both of you? What do you think about that idea of that rather than to destroy it, that we have to build it back up with the world that we want?
Yeah, sometimes that's like a fire, isn't it? It's like nothing good grows unless it all kind of burns down. And I think you're gonna see some of that in season 3 of Diggstown until it all sort of comes falling down. Do we start to see the new sort of sprigs growing? But that is such an intensely complicated question with everything that's going on politically and with COVID. There's so much to say on that subject that we would not have the time right now if I were to start going. So I'm going to leave it to you, Crystal, because there's just a lot there that.
If you could just repeat the question, that would be great, because I'm with you.
You seem to be as well attracted to a lot of projects that are about changing the system or rebuilding the system the way that we want it to be, rather than to just destroy it, to rebuild and to build it up with the world that we want. So how important is that to you within the context of the show and in your real life, just to feel like you have a voice to rebuild the system?
Well, I think I'm really excited to be a part of the show just because it does just that. Floyd says this often. He says, educate while entertaining. And I think that's important for the audience to be entertained, as well as like walk away with learning something new and learning these social issues. And to be a part of that is really important in my personal life, but also as an actress, to be a part of such an important progressive show. And there's so much inclusivity in his writing, and I'm really proud to be a part of that.
It was amazing to see too, prominent on the CBC lineup, that you were picked up by Fox as well too, that you were streaming previously on BET. What does it mean that this show gets seen in Canada, but in the States as well too, and with an audience that, might not be as familiar with sort of this landscape, that they're able to come across it and start conversations because of it?
I think it's hugely important because as we're starting to stream and content is being fed to us from other countries, other cultures all over the world with our streaming platforms and stuff. to now, it's to in America as well, where things are polished and things are done a certain way. And, I think in general, America is getting, their minds open up to a lot of cultures in that way. And for us and Canada and Halifax to be, on that agenda, and for them to understand our stories and our history. I say our as a Canadian, but I'm learning things all the time from these scripts. I'm learning things from these stories. So to have the world and the States open up and to learn what's going on right in their neighborhood, right over the border, I think it's super important. I think it's super important.
I as well think it's really important because Brandon was saying earlier, most of this stuff it's not taught. It's not in the curriculum in schools, such as residential schools, and they skim over it. So Floyd does a whole episode about that, and then people walk away going, I had no idea that kind of travesty happened in Canada, and it sparks conversation. And I think that's one of the main points of Floyd writing this incredible content, is that he wants people to walk away educated and knowing that there are actual Black people in Nova Scotia, and and the issues that happen there as well. So I'm excited that the States is going to watch this and be walk away learning new things, as well as being entertained by the characters and their personal lives.
Natasha, last time you were telling me in particular about a cousin of yours, and you were having a conversation about how Canadians, in our sort of attempt to be polite and our Canadian way, that we tend to be kind of hiding things a lot. We don't have those conversations ourselves, or we push down a lot of the things that are, maybe disturbing us or not making us feel as good. I'm wondering how, when you said it to me at the time, it really resonated, but now even more so, in this sort of new COVID landscape, how do you feel like, are we able to have those conversations? Do you feel like, maybe through this show, perhaps we're going to start to talk a little bit more?
I really hope so. I hope that, during COVID in general, that there were so many issues with domestic violence and mental health and a million others. And I have, having lived in both countries, and having my family all being Canadian, there's a strong sort of English stiff upper lip kind of thing. Don't talk about it. It's not happening. Mental health issues, this, that, don't just pretend it's all. So I've seen that a lot. And maybe it's just the Irish English background that I'm from, but I do see it with Canadians a lot too. That I've felt over the years, like, don't try to stand out too much. Stop trying to be better than anybody else, And I grew up even hearing that, like, who do you think you are? I was like, instead of having this ability to sort of soar, and America's got like a whole different set of things that are, but I've always like looked at these different sort of dynamics in the two countries, and what Americans say compared to what Canadians say. And I love this. I've lived here for actually longer than Canada. I'm in Los Angeles right now, but so I love looking sort of at the different dynamics. And I do think one of the good things that came out of COVID is the amount of time that people were spending together, for better or for worse. There's a lot of homeschooling moms and a lot of marriages that were, struggling, but I do think it forces you to not have distraction. It forces you to, you can't live your life in distraction all the time. You have to sort of confront what is happening in front of you right then. And I think that happens to our characters in Diggstown in the beginning as well. They've been in that pressurized sort of situation. And I think it impacts all of their decision making and where they go through the season. Yeah.
Crystle, what do you think about that idea in terms of just, coming back to do Canadian television, and, maybe do we have those conversations? Do you feel like, do we hide how we feel more than say it in sort of an attempt to be polite?
I do. And a lot like Natasha, I think we have a lot of common in that way, that I grew up in Los Angeles from 8 years old, and I'm now 38, and I just got back. So it's definitely, I mean, okay, this is kind of funny, but when you drive through Tim Hortons, the girl taking your order literally says sorry 4 times for taking your order in a polite way, but apologetic. It's very interesting. It's very, oh, I'm sorry. What did you order? Sorry. It's like, it's okay. But yes, people in Canada are very extra nice, but there are, me personally, I am a very outspoken person. So I think I just come here and I'm just like, so it takes people kind of a moment to kind of grasp when I'm in a conversation about things that I'm passionate about, or, certain issues that I want to talk about. I don't hide any of that. That is who I am. So, if there's something that I want to talk about, I don't hold back at all. But coming back to Canada, I definitely feel the like, whoa, chill out,
Right. Yeah. You're ruffling.
Storytelling. Yeah. I want to be a vessel for, people like Lloyd's writing to get it out there. So that it's in your face. You have to listen, kind of thing, if you're watching the show.
And I really enjoy this show in particular because it confronts things head on. I don't know if I've seen a show quite like that, where it fits into that space, and you might expect it to go a certain way, and it doesn't. So has it, has there been a moment sort of this season or previously, Crystle, I know you're just coming in for the 3rd season, but Natasha, have you found a moment in which you'd said originally that, you fell in love with the script? Has there been a moment that's really surprised you?
There's some stuff in this 3rd season that yeah, like I said earlier too. I mean, I learn a lot in the episodes. When I read the episodes, I'm like, wow, I'm one of the people that didn't know about the residential school horrors. There's no other way to put it, which was so traumatic. And that was happening, while we were filming. They were finding those bodies and stuff, and I was completely ignorant to all of it, knew nothing about any of it. I've been away from Canada for a long time as well, so maybe that's part of it. But so that was a shocker to me on a personal and outside of the filming, but then it's also incorporated into the show. There's some stuff that happens later on in the season where just a lot of changes. There's a lot of shifts. Floyd said earlier, this season is about transformation, and the transformation that happened. It's funny, really, with the actors and with the characters and with everybody. I think everybody went through such a transformation in many ways. And so he really decided to write about that and bring that into the show as well. So there's some surprising stuff this season for sure, but I can't tell you. I can't tell you what it is, But I think the stakes are higher this year. I think all of the stakes are much higher, and yet it still feels real. It doesn't have that glossed over hyper reality feel. The show is very different than some legal shows or other shows that feel very hyper, because when you go into a courtroom and you watch actual trial lawyers, it is not what it is on TV. You know what I mean? So the show has a groundedness to it in general, but I would still say this season the stakes are much higher.
I found that to be the case myself as a viewer. Everything that I'm watching this show, first and foremost, it feels more heightened. Everything that I'm watching, whether intentionally or unintentionally at this time, just feels like, more that it matters. We're living it, and it feels like the content that we're watching, it really affects me personally. I'm wondering, for both of you, have you had a show or a movie or anything recently that has affected you in the same way?
Oh yeah, all the time. I'm very affected by what I'm watching. I cry all the time during movies, and I get angry, and there's certain things that I simply just cannot watch because I literally go into that and I can't sleep. It keeps me up at night because I'm invested in that at the moment. Sometimes I carry it with me. So I'm very affected with cinema and television and TV, but if it's done well. If it really, and I think that's the point of, oh my God, there's this fly that is not leaving me. That's the point of doing this work, is to affect people and make them feel something. So absolutely. And I'm also affected by the characters that I play, because you get invested into being, you need to be authentic in the emotion. You need the audience to feel you. So yes, absolutely. It's tough sometimes, but that's what we do. Right, Natasha?
Yes, for sure. And that's why I come home and watch bad reality TV on the regular, because I like to just escape from all of it and just watch humans in their natural habitat and laugh and cry. So I get into shows, but yeah, I like you, seriously, on a serious level, I feel very affected by that too. And also when you're an actor and you're watching scripted television and you're watching somebody do what they do, you realize how much harder it is to do than it looks like if you're not an actor. If you're not an actor, it just seems very easy and natural. But when you're have to bring yourself to those places and be private in public and watch that kind of stuff, it's impressive if they can make you as an actor or a filmmaker or, you know, somebody in the entertainment business forget about that. And really invest. And I love that. I love that. But honestly, I was trying to think when you asked that question, I'm like, what have I been watching lately? My goodness, what have I been watching? And I haven't been watching a lot of TV lately. So strangely enough, because I love TV, but I haven't lately, but except for bad reality. I just fall asleep with some stupid show on, and that's it. Call it a day.
Thank you to both of you that, you know, this show has really affected me in your performances, but also throughout your careers. Both of you have taken on roles and projects that have really meant a lot to me. And it's so wonderful to hear from you and to be able to talk about that. So thank you.
That's really
sweet.
nice. Thank you for the compliment.